You're listening to the Grind Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. You're listening to episode 314. I am your host, Greg. I am here tonight with Ryan. The Wings are back from the Four Nations face-off after a kind of upsetting Team USA loss. I mean, they gave it their all, and it was a good game, of course. As scripted, Connor McDavid scores to win for Team Canada. But the Red Wings are back. They've played 2 games. Ryan, how are you feeling?
Other than the fact that you had to touch on that right out the gate, still upsetting, still disappointing. But as a whole, that was absolutely incredible. I loved it.
I agree.
I want more. And it makes me so excited for the freaking Olympics, mainly because we're going to see so many more countries involved. We're going to see, I think, a renewed excitement, if you will, from not only NHL players, but just top tier players across the world who want to go out and be a part of this. And I love it. I hope that moving forward, this is the go-to for the NHL when it comes to a Four Nations, or I hope they expand it, kind of like to McDavid's point. But
We need a more nations.
Awesome.
That's what we need.
So
We need
good.
more nations.
Call it whatever the hell you want. Go back to World Cup of Hockey and bring in who's available and how you want to do it. I mean, it's a weird breakdown in the NHL, but as a whole, freaking loved it.
But we do have games to talk about, a couple. Now,
Finally.
I will preface by saying I thought the Wild game was on in the afternoon. So I got a score update saying the Red Wings were heading into overtime. And I'm like, what is it talking about? And then I'm like, oh, we played a hockey game while I was sitting here and my kids were watching Gabby's Dollhouse or whatever the hell they were watching. So
You'll love when that happens.
I missed that game. Your top performers in that game were Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, Mo Sider, Justin Holt, Eric Gustafson, Lucas Raymond. Your bottom was JT Compher, Jonathan Berggren, Albert Johansson, Joe Veleno, Elmer Soderblom, Michael Rasmussen. Your scorers from that game, Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond, they come hot off the tournament, come in blazing, get some goals. And the Red Wings do come out with a point, lose to the Minnesota Wild 4-3 in overtime off just a goal that should have, watching the replays, never gone in. Cam Talbot should have had that 100%. He stopped the initial Rossi shot, let it squeak by him. Terrible overtime goal.
The initial shot was a whiff.
Again, should never have gone in. The Red Wings should have come out of that game with 2 points. I mean, they would have had to win in overtime, but
Sure, but
the story is a late game collapse, right?
Points are points, and I forget who made the comment, but the fact that the point that we lost was to a team out west, I think that's the consolation prize out of the whole thing.
Sure.
For the weekend games, they're all Western Conference opponents. Didn't really impact us too much as far as the standings. And in fact, us still not winning in overtime still bumped us into the first wild card as we went into Sunday, which was great.
Yeah, and then we further solidified our place in the wild card against the Anaheim Ducks, where the Red Wings do win 5-4 in overtime. Again, a game that should not have gone to overtime. They pull their goalie with 4 minutes left, and they complete the comeback to take it to overtime. And your top performers in that game, Mo Sider, Eric Gustafson was your second best performer in that game, followed by Lucas Raymond, Alex DeBrincat, Patrick Kane. Your bottom is Johansson, Edvinsson, Rasmussen, Soderblom, Tarasenko. Your goal scorers are 2 for Patrick Kane, 1 for Marco Kasper, 1 for JT Compher, 1 for Alex DeBrincat. And you had Alex Lyon in goal. He saved 24 of 28 for an .857 save percentage. I'm not going to blame Alex Lyon for any of that. There were some really fluky goals. One deflected off a dude's shoulder. It was a kind of a mess out there. The Red Wings, for the most part, dominated the Ducks, which they should. They're a better team.
This is a game where when you're looking at the hockey stat card, you see Simon and Albert at the bottom. You're like, what the heck? That can't be right. That is a game where the chart matches the eye test, because they really did have a rough go. And it seemed like every time Anaheim was putting on great pressure, those guys just seemed uncomfortable. It was one of the weird days for both of those guys where they just didn't seem to have it. But as a whole, offensively, you loved it as a Wings fan. Defensively, there was a good, interesting question asked of McClellan after the fact of, what do you typically try to do when it comes to a 6-on-5 situation? And he made that comment with 4 minutes to go. They're pulling their goalie. You really can't do much other than just try to rotate your guys. You're likely playing 9 to 10 forwards in that time frame, because it's not like there's 30 seconds to 1 minute left in the game where you can maybe roll 1-2 lines max, or rotate 3 to 5 guys and get away with it. So they had to be out there. I mean, we saw Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat out there in that final 4 minute stretch. It is what it is. Some people were upset about the fact that they were trying to shoot down the ice for the goal, but at the same time, you're still wasting 6 to 7 seconds when you do that. I get the alternative. If you can just clear the zone, maybe you do waste an extra 15, 20 seconds. But all in all, the fact they came out with the victory, it's huge. Patrick Kane scored his 5th game-winning overtime goal since he's been with the Red Wings. It was a beaut after a nice play by Casper, after we probably should have lost on a great play by Anaheim, just like they did the day before against Boston. So Detroit escaping, I hate to use the word escaping, with 2 points is huge. However, Anaheim's not playing poorly up to this point. So they're also, I think they're in the midst of the playoff run out west, aren't they?
Anaheim? I'd have to look at the standings. I didn't think so. I thought they were terrible this season.
They are currently 6 points back of Vancouver. I mean, Anaheim right now is 25, 24, and 7. All things considered, for a team that has $17 million in cap space, for a group that really doesn't have an identity, them to be 6 points out, I think that's pretty solid for them.
So the Red Wings had 3 goals, and I think it was the first 5 minutes and 6 seconds of the game. That was the fastest to 3 goals for a team this season so far. And the fastest the Red Wings have done that since, I think they said 1993. So good. Red Wings are breaking a lot of, now they're not crazy records, but they're breaking records that are held by like really good Red Wings teams or have been held for a very long time. So this team is going somewhere, and they're playing like they're going somewhere, which is really nice. The upsetting thing about that Anaheim Ducks game is Trevor Zegras takes off Michael Rasmussen's head, and it goes completely uncalled. And that, I mean, I took a screenshot of it today. There were at least 3 refs that should have saw that. The excuse they gave Todd McClellan is, we didn't see it and we can't just make stuff up. That's what Todd said at the post-game presser, like, we didn't see anything and we can't just call something we didn't see. And I put out a tweet today and said, hey guys, this is the perfect point, and they should talk about this in the next CBA, to institute an automatic replay if a player is injured on a play. If someone is down, Toronto should immediately, now you don't have to stop play and wait for Toronto. Let Toronto pull the video, let them make a decision, let them tell the refs mid-game, like, hey, at next whistle, this player's off for either a match penalty, because that's what that should have been.
I'll take a step back from that. Not necessarily even the next stoppage to that point, which more than likely, if it's an injury, they're stopping play. So at that point of stoppage, it should initiate an immediate review of any injury, especially a hit, a puck, things that, like, something along those lines. No reviews necessary. It makes sense. It's just, that's a fluke. It happens. But any type of hit should be immediate review. If there's no call made on the ice, that's where they should be called over. Get on the phone, get on the headset, start talking to Toronto and going through the process. That should be, it should be a no-brainer, for a lack of better words, that the NHL, the NFL, all their faults in officiating, stops play to review a headshot. College stops play to review a headshot.
And it's what they're trying to stop in hockey, is the dangerous headshots. And this is the easiest way to do it.
It just, how do you not? I think that's what pissed me off the most, is that we were talking about it last night and everyone was pissed off. I was pissed off. And I think you made the comment about potentially puck watching, but at the same, I finally realized that where the puck played, like up the boards where Rasmussen played it, the defenseman for Anaheim hit the puck out of the air. And I think he punched it or something. and he was watching the puck come back in, and that's when Zegras just freaking blindsided him. Like it's one thing when there's a play like if he would have just played it, hit came through. It's a different scenario. Like the Cizikas incident that happened last night. It's crazy that yesterday there was 3 instances of a headshot. 2 of them got reviewed for a match penalty. One of them actually was successful on what was arguably a regular play of hockey with Cizikas. To me, that one didn't garner him being ejected. Typically, that also leads to a review by the league. Nothing came from the hit on Cizikas. Matt Rempe, forward for the Rangers. He had another hit that was called a major in the game for what is typically a normal play. Came up on the guy, I think it was Matt Grzelcyk, came up on him. Grzelcyk was in a weird position, and Rempe caught his arm and kind of rode him up. Head ended up going straight into the boards. It looked rough. They reviewed it. They ended up calling it 2 minutes for interference because technically Grzelcyk, I think, tried to make a play on the puck that was coming around the boards, whiffed on it. Rempe makes the contact. He goes down. No supplemental discipline on that one either. But here we are with the Zegras incident. And I made the comment in a tweet last night that they basically played the name game yesterday. You look at Rempe, you look at Cizikas, guys with a history, guys that are physical. They both got reviewed. One was kicked out of the game, which I still disagree with. Whereas Zegras out there for making the pretty plays. He's the young gun in the NHL.
He's a TikTok kid.
Whatever you want to go with it. To me, it was they played that game with it, and he gets off scot-free. Now, maybe they did miss it. I don't know how. You've got 4 officials on the ice. All 4 in those instances and those headshots can make a call.
Well,
Not
yeah,
one
and
made a call.
They should be watching where the play is happening. The play was happening there. When
there.
When Rasmussen got hit, the puck was maybe 6 feet away from him. Within the field of view of at least 3 of the refs. The other one's not in frame, but at least 3 of them. One of them should have caught it. And I think the "we didn't see anything" excuse gets kind of old. And if there is a chance where you don't see someone clearly take a headshot and nothing happens during the game, which could change the outcome of the game. And I mean, maybe did. Maybe it changed the outcome of the game, and maybe we wouldn't have gone to overtime if it was called and Zegras was ejected. But if someone gets hurt, this is the case for automatic review upon player injury. If someone is injured and on the ice after what is clearly a head hit, that refs can go to their little tablet and watch the live replay, and scrub back, even though they didn't see it. Toronto is watching all the games, and they see it happen because we all saw it happen, and they have the same feeds we do. So that should immediately be a call from Toronto, be like, hey, hold on a second. That was clearly a head hit. Get Zegras out of here. Now, to turn it around, though, Trevor Zegras was suspended for 3 games today by the Department of Player Safety. They did get that right. I think a 3-game suspension is what it should have been.
And hopefully we don't see Rasmussen out for an extended period of time, because it was announced from McClellan. He obviously did not return to the game last night, and he's not making the trip to Minnesota, which they're there. Is it tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, yeah.
Yeah. So they'll be in Minnesota without him. Andrew Kopp, additionally to that point, was placed on IR, which they didn't say retroactive, did they?
No, he was placed on IR today.
So minimum 7 days as of today. 7
days.
Sorry. So there's 2 of your top 4 centers.
It's your center depth. Bye-bye.
And I mean, it's frustrating again, because I think Kopp has 23 points in 56 games. You've got Rasmussen that's hovering right just a little bit south of that, but you've seen what both those guys can bring to your roster. They're both guys that see time on the penalty kill. They are positional, solid depth players. And I feel like that line with Rasmussen and Soderblom in particular has been awesome. And then you mix Kopp in there on occasion. They have been a solid group. And now it's interesting because we're less than 2 weeks to the trade deadline. Now, do you want to touch on the other piece of news that hit that's very important to that?
Well, we'll take a break before we do that, but the corresponding move to the Kopp move is the Red Wings called up Sheldon Dries from the Grand Rapids Griffins, In 48 games played, he has 19 goals, 8 assists for 27 points. I'm not sure he will see the ice because you do have Christian Fischer, who is healthy, who is able to play. He has played center. Tyler Mott can play center, so you can shift people around
Unlikely,
and get
but
some
yes,
play
he can.
there. Sheldon Dries is a center, though. That is his actual position. So it's possible he gets play if they don't want to do that much shifting, but we'll see.
I think he would, simply for the fact of the connection of the other Grand Rapids guys that he's played with.
Possibly, because he'd be playing on a line probably with Soderblom, and he's played with him this season. So we'll see where that goes. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk about the other piece of news on the other side before we sign off. So give us a quick minute, a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back. It might not feel like it, but spring's right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in on all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like a golfer to win the tournament and make your pick. It's just that easy. Here's something special for first timers, though. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So download DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And we're back. And as promised, the other piece of news from today, and literally this just dropped like 45 minutes ago to get an alert, and this is the alert. The Detroit Red Wings have traded goaltender Ville Husso to the Anaheim Ducks for future considerations. And then people are like, future considerations. Red Wings have so much of that. Couldn't they have gotten a pick for him? First of all, no. I'm pretty sure they've probably tried trading him several times this season. And I mean, he's in Grand Rapids playing. His NHL starts have been mediocre to bad. And
he's done what he's needed to do for the most part in Detroit. I say for the most part because we've seen the best of both worlds this season. But when it was bad,
like real bad.
Yeah.
But he goes to Anaheim now. Here's where it gets fun. So Puckpedia, our friends over at Puckpedia, if you're not following them, they are the cat-friendly replacement, and their tools are fantastic. Their website is great. Go follow Puckpedia. But after trading Husso and saving $3.6 million in cap hit, because Yzerman did not retain any salary on this, that's where you win with future considerations. Zero salary retention. Huge. The Red Wings now have they get $3 million in cap space with moving that contract.
3.6.
They can fit $14 million in annual cap hit at the deadline. That is what we in the business call a fuck ton of money. You have a lot of cap space available to essentially make, with that much money, make any moves you want. You can do whatever you want with that much money at the trade deadline, which is coming up in a little over a week. So next Friday is the trade deadline, which we'll talk about more either later this week or early next week. But you've got so much money to make any kind of move you want. Rumors are Mikko Rantanen might go back on the block. Someone like Mitch Marner could become available if Toronto can't re-sign him or talks have stalled. You can't see Toronto wanting to lose him.
About, so just calm down, folks.
Sure, but you can't see Toronto wanting to lose him for nothing, not just let him walk. So you've got a lot of money. You've got spaces that need to be filled. You can do things if you're the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, it brings in a hell of a lot of what if scenarios. Like, are they going to go for depth? Are they going to try to short some things up in the bottom, maybe the middle six? Are you looking? I mean, we don't know what's going on with Jeff Petrie. Do you go and get another depth defenseman?
Is he alive? Where is he?
He was on video the other day with his kids, so we at least know that he exists still. But I mean, if Andrew Kopp, like it was an awkward hit, if you even want to call it a hit, in the scrum against Minnesota that he took. Looks like it's either, to me, it looked like shoulder, collarbone. the way he moved, the way it kind of pinched, went down, and then got up, and his arm was kind of dead. My worry is something down in the shoulder. Obviously, we don't know because the NHL is cryptic as hell with their injuries. But at the same time, if he's out for a considerable amount, if he does go to LTIR, if you see Jeff Petrie eventually go to LTIR, because we haven't heard really any updates on him other than the fact that he was roughly 6 to 8 weeks, which was a couple weeks ago. I think that puts it at playoff time where he could potentially return. But to me, with the expectations from Yzerman that he outlined a long time ago at the coaching change, I feel like you have to make one, if not two moves to shore your team up just to have that flexibility if a guy like Kopp does return. Because if you don't, then what are you trying to do, like prove to your team?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. If you're not making moves right now, the team could say, "Hey, like we got a new coach, we turned it around. We're solidly by 2 points, but solidly in the first wild card position and only a handful of points behind being third in the division. Like now is the time you give them help." And Yzerman seemed, his last presser, which was a while ago, seemed more than happy to do that as long as it was young guys that you could fit in the long term, Dylan Larkin's age or younger, that you could trade for and sign to be here a while. And the moves that have been made and the amount of cap space that is available, it seems like that may be the direction that he is headed. Now it takes two people to make a deal, and you're going to have to probably give up something that is uncomfortable to get high-end players that you're going to be targeting. But someone mentioned like Brock Nelson, and I'm like, yeah, Brock Nelson's 33. He's a rental. Like, I understand he fills a positional need with Kopp and Rasmussen going down, but I'm not comfortable expending assets for rentals. But I am comfortable enough to trade away a protected 2026 first for a high-end player. If you're going to try out and go get if you're going to try to go out and get someone like Bowen Byram, and you're going to have to expend capital for a young defenseman that will fix a big part of your problem, I have no issue in doing that. If you're going to try and go get a Cousins, maybe not give that much up to get him. But I think that is something that I am comfortable expending assets on as long as that person can be here for a long time and that they can positively impact a position on this team that we need. So it's really a center or it's a mid-pair defenseman.
Yeah, and it's a freaky situation because you look at the standings right now. The third place team in the Metro sits at 70 points. Detroit's 6 points back of that. Now, granted, it helps that with New Jersey, they're at 70, but 59 games. Detroit has 64 and 57. They could shrink that gap. But you pretty much have to focus on that wild card spot at this point because Tampa's 4 points up. They're looking solid. They really do look like the typical Tampa that we've seen the last several years. Not as truly high end,
which is super upsetting.
Yeah, it is because they're only 4 points back of Toronto for first in the division. Now you've got teams like Boston. They're 1 point back of Ottawa, 3 points back of Detroit. But are they going to try to maybe make a move? Are they going to not be as aggressive and try to replan for next year? With the injury to McAvoy, with how things are looking there, I think they just lost Hampus Lindholm for an extended period of time, if I'm not mistaken. They've got injuries that are adding up. Could that be a team you look at making a deal with? The Rangers still scare me out of the Metro. They sucked early. They have been on a tear. They're only 4 points back at Detroit. And then from there, it starts getting into maybe there's starting to be a separation here with the Islanders at 57 points. A lot can still happen, but that might be from the Islanders, Habs, Flyers, Penguins, and Sabres. Those may start being the teams that you maybe have those conversations with of a trade, at least out of the East. The West, a little more wide open. You could potentially go after somebody. I still like the idea of Rasmus Anderson in Calgary on defense. But I mean, you're looking at teams like St. Louis, they're 5 points out. Anaheim, we just saw another deal with the Kraken, Predators. It was that one blows my mind. Nashville, the moves they made in the offseason, and they have been complete asshole.
They're so bad.
So Mario made an interesting comment to me today. Would you take back as a rental Gus Nyquist?
I don't know, man. Nyquist is over 30 now.
He is, but
he's still
he
a
can
really
fit-
high level player. Again, what do they want? A 7th round pick? A 6th round pick? Sure.
I feel like you could get for the age. Now, what blew my mind is that he's 5th in the team in time on ice. He's playing top line minutes, top 6 minutes, I should say. You could slot him into your middle 6. You can float him back and forth as need be. He's still being an impactful player, and he's on an expiring deal.
If the cost is nothing, like a ham sandwich for Gus Nyquist, sure, that's fine. But like I said, if I'm giving up any kind of actual asset, I'm packaging it with more than that to get a player that's here long term, that's younger. But on your Boston point, 32 thoughts today, Elliot. One of Elliot's segments is they also talk about the Boston Bruins finally waving the white flag on the season heading into the deadline. So it sounds like Boston may be out.
And that's crazy because they're 1 point out. But
yeah, they're marred by injuries.
The injuries, and that is the hellscape that is the NHL.
And on the Rangers point, the Detroit Red Wings have the hardest strength of schedule to finish out the season.
Of course they do.
The next two, New York Rangers, Columbus Blue Jackets. So two of the people that are fighting for spots
twice.
Yeah,
going into the frickin' deadline.
Yeah. So your toughest opponents are 2 against the Caps, the Stars. You got 2 against Vegas, 1 against Toronto, 1 more against the Wild tomorrow, and 3 against the Hurricanes. And then your easiest opponents are the Sabres, you've got 1, the Canadiens, you've got 1, the Blues, you have 1, 2 against Utah, 1 against Boston, 2 against the Jackets. So you have 25 games left. You have the hardest schedule in the league to finish it out. But we've seen that. I think we've had the hardest schedule in the league since Christmas, around there.
Mm.
And Todd coming in has shown that he doesn't care about strength of schedule. All he cares about is winning. So the Red Wings do play the Minnesota Wild tomorrow. Hopefully they come out and just kick some ass after being embarrassed in overtime against them on Saturday. But Ryan, I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off tonight.
No, final thoughts are, if you haven't been really paying attention, Alex Ovechkin is 13 goals away from setting a new all-time goal record, and it's freaking awesome. He had a hat trick the other day. What's scary though is that the pace that he's kind of going at right now is apparently it could happen against Detroit, and that would be the worst possible thing. I think not worst possible, but it wouldn't be fun.
Everyone does cool stuff against us.
It does. It would be fitting because usually it's a rookie first start as a goaltender, first goal,
and they get a shutout.
Yeah. So I guess if Ovi were to be the one that, if he did it against Detroit, it would suck, but it would also be awesome knowing that Detroit had that number 1 goal scorer for so long with Gordy. Then Gretzky took it over, Ovi to do it. But regardless, I can't wait. I'm hoping when he gets to the final 5 goals that ESPN, whoever it is, TNT has their remaining games on, because you know how crazy he can just go off and score, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome.
You think he'll retire if he breaks it?
Yes, I think he'll finally call it a day. But the atmosphere for that game when it happens is going to be absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to watch it. But on that note, already around 33.
Yeah, I mean, home stretch, 25 games. That's the home stretch, right? The Red Wings are in perfect position to actually make the playoffs. So it'll be really interesting to see what Yzerman does towards the trade deadline, because he could make it a very big trade deadline for the Red Wings, and he could give them, there is enough available, I think, that is high-end talent, because teams are running out of cap space, even though the cap's going up pretty dramatically, or they've got young guys that are trying to break in, and they could lower their cap if they don't think their team is going to be kind of heading towards the playoffs every season going forward. I think there's enough there where Yzerman can make a substantial splash, not just for now, but for setting the team up for the future. So it's really exciting to see. You can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You can follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. We'll give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network and thank them for hosting us around. Shout out to Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on, and where we also have a exclusive t-shirt collection, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Todd Father shirt that I made, which is just super awesome in black, huge logo. And it's a great shirt. I love this one, and their stuff is so comfortable. They're tri-blend shirts that just feel like Olaf says, a warm hug is what they feel like for all of you with children who have seen Frozen.
It sounds ridiculous, but he's not lying.
I'm right. I'm not wrong.
They are awesome.
You can also head over to YouTube, find us at Grindline Pod, sub to our channel, and turn on notifications, and you'll be notified whenever episodes goes live. But that will do it for us tonight. So for Ryan, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.